apologize for my tardiness. I had a slow start out the gate this morning. And, I'm sorry, I don't believe that.
No, sir, I just got here the day this morning.
Awesome. Okay, I think we're doing a case update, right?
Yes, sir.
So the big case, the IG case, in late July, I talked to the investigating officer for that investigation. And what he told me was, he said, hey, look, right now the IG investigation is at MCOE headquarters. It's got to go MCOE to TRADOC to DAIG, and then it's got to come all the way back down. So what that investigator said is, he said his best guess is that investigation will come in November. The results. It's already done. It just go up and come back down and be approved. That'll be November. I will bring you in when I get those results. In fact, I'm mandated to do that in AR 600-20. So that's not going to be a challenge. I do not know how expansive it is, but my indications are that it is completely just limited, the IG investigation, to were you blocked. Did she try to get between you and being able to report an IG complaint? That is my understanding, which obviously is a Department of the Army level problem when they do that. I'm not even allowed to investigate that. Is there any questions with the DAIG investigation?
No, sir.
Okay, sometime in the late April time frame, there was a investigation started in the squadron. So Major, correct me if I'm wrong, the DAIG complaint is actually what triggered the squadron investigation. So where the DAIG investigation was extremely narrow, were you blocked or not blocked from filing a complaint? The squadron investigation was extremely expansive. When I look at it in total, there are 8 incidents that I looked at. So I apologize for the heat in the room, but I can go through each and every one of these and tell you what my findings were.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the first one I found is, when I looked at this investigation, I looked at all the sworn statements and all the evidence. The first question I had was, did Sergeant Militich, did she put a bloody sanitary napkin in the female restroom upstairs? And did she leave it there for you to clean? Do I have that generally? That's one event. Do I have that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what I found is, there was no evidence to prove that she left the item. I think that was implied that she was the one who left it. But we have a largely non-secure building. This is right before the gated cup. There are a lot of people. I found no witness statement, no evidence to suggest that she left it. What I did find is, I found that ultimately she was the one who cleaned it up. I did find that in a sworn statement. I was still concerned by, but did she leave it there for you with the intention that you would clean it up? Once again, I could not find any evidence to suggest that she did or she didn't. What I did find is, throughout the entire squadron footprint, we do not have a system for who cleans up what and when do they do it. So just last week, we had a complete top to bottom cleaning of all squadron facilities, and we're now going to work through the operations sergeant major to make it. So did we have a system that was rife for somebody to take advantage of? Absolutely. And we attacked that system. Could I find proof in here that the evidence that was available to me that she left it for you and she intended for you to clean it up? I could not. What I did find is, she ultimately was the one who cleaned it up. Do you think I have anything incorrect in there?
She admitted to it. She was talking to Sergeant White, and Simmons overheard it, and they told me.
Did you hear it personally?
No.
Okay, in a lot of these sworn statements, I found a lot of third-hand knowledge. And this goes back to a question I would have with the IO. If somebody said they saw this and this incident was brought up to each and every one of them in the course of the investigation, why didn't they write this down in a sworn statement? But if I could say this on a side note, if you never would have reported this, I never would know what a horrible system we had in the squadron. I would never know that it is a potential hazard for all of our people and that it could be used for bullying. The fact that you reported it allowed me to do something about it. So I'm actually very grateful. The next allegation, okay, the weapons card. So the next accusation is that Sergeant First Class Melton is trying to get in between you and your promotion to sergeant by denying your weapons card. Do I have that general event right?
It was that and holding me back from taking my test so I could go be an officer. I wanted to go to the Air Force.
4187.
Yes.
Okay, I'll tackle that one in a second. So here's what I found with the weapons card. One, I looked at your weapons card. I had the IO admitted to evidence. That weapons card was from the fall of 2020, correct?
2021, I was pregnant, yes.
Okay. So here's what I found. I found the lack of leader education. I found that this squadron has been doing it wrong, probably all the way back to 2019. There might have been a small window when they were doing it right, but when they were doing it right, it was because of COVID guidance that suspended the use of weapons cards. So in June of 2019, the Army came out with what is its current form of the Integrated Weapons Training Strategy that governs how we qualify with our individual weapons. In this training strategy, it laid out up to a 2-year line. And when you look at enlisted promotions, the Army regulation also says a weapons card may be up to 2 years old. So that's 2019. But then COVID comes in March of 2020 and the Army starts pumping out these ALARACs. I think at the end we found a dozen ALARACs. And what I found is it made it very hard for leaders, especially company commanders and first sergeants. It made it very confusing on how do you keep up with the updated guidance. So at the time that we're talking about in this investigation, we are talking the second quarter, the winter of 2023, right? By that time, your weapons card was no longer valid. Its last valid date was the previous quarter. That would have brought you out to the 2 years. So what I found is through a series of emails that were in the investigation that we had pulled out, I found some correspondence back and forth between a few leaders. And what I found is, one, the troop commander knew that it wasn't a valid weapons card. He didn't find that out until he's trying to put it into, and he's trying to manage with the S1 getting it put into IPS-A. Well, IPS-A is being introduced during this period. There's the brownout, they're introducing it, and these leaders are really confused. Why won't the system take your card? The solution, which you're on the email messages, in fact, I think you might have even given the email to the IO, is there's coordination between this headquarters and your former unit at Fort Cavazos.
Oh, yes, yes.
So essentially, and please, this is going to sound horrible, but I don't think it is. Essentially, the plan is, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, hey, you that did the weapons card 2 years ago, I need you to redo it on the new DA form. Unfortunately, the reply back from Cavazos comes something to the effect of, well, hey, actually the person that was the OIC for that range is now PCS'd, in fact, ETS'd out of the Army. They didn't feel comfortable with it. I did not find Sergeant Melitich behind trying to block your weapons card to get into your sergeant promotion. What I found was top to bottom, all the leaders are being very confused about, one, what is the Army standard? And two, how do I get IPS-A to accept it? Ultimately, what I found is, because you did make points, obviously, ultimately we did the forged document. We have not done our point system right and done our weapons cards right in probably about 2 years. If I didn't have this investigation, I never would have known that. In fact, I didn't find a single first sergeant, a single troop commander that knew the Army standard and knew how to get it right. So really what I found, IPS-A, leader ignorance. We had tackled that as a squadron. We had a big OPD right before a training meeting and said, here's the Army standard. and we still have an LPD that we wanna have, it's, here's how you build a board packet. I found no malicious intent, I found true ignorance, and I found several people actually trying to solve the problem. And obviously, I see with your promotion, ultimately, we did solve the problem. Whether that was the correct way of solving it or not, it's the way that this squadron had been doing business for the last 2 years during the COVID. So that's what I found, confusion, no malicious intent. Okay, the next one's the 4187 that you alluded to. Put me in the time frame. This is January, correct?
January, I believe. Well, I was doing it before. After I went to the board December the 15th, I passed. So I was trying to get my. This was when I believe Sergeant Cotton was here.
Hey, because this is where I'm going to go with it. So we're talking the December-January time frame. When did Sergeant First Class Melitich arrive in the S4?
She came in January because Sergeant Cotton got moved to brigade.
So here's what I found on this one. And I'm going to make one assumption with this. What I found was she was confused. I just arrived here. She probably didn't have any kind of automations capability. So she admits it in her sworn statement, she was slow with it. But she had literally just got here the second or third week of January. Probably wasn't up on automations. Didn't even have an opportunity to service this target for you. Ultimately, though, the company commander knew about it, did he not?
He didn't know about it until we had a meeting about the weapons card because I sent it to her in her email. Then we was having a conversation about it. I was like, Major Moffett suggested to me to stay on this side and do the JAG program. So she asked me, which one do you want to do? I said, I'm going to submit both because whichever one comes first, I'm going to take it. So she said, okay, this is February, March time. I sent it to her an email again. And so we went to talk to the commander. He said, I never heard about it. She says, you didn't send that to me. I said, yes, I did. So she went over to the first sergeant. They pulled it up, printed it out, and everything.
So here comes the question when you're looking at the evidence. Did you send it, and did it just go to a vast email cache that was backed up until she had her ability to check her system here? Or, like, did she even know, do we know that she had it, she reviewed it, she looked at it? Do we know that?
I kept reminding her over and over. She looked at it. She was okay, I'm going to send it up. She kept on, I'm going to send it up, I'm going to send it up, and never did.
Okay, and this comes into another problem that I have with this whole portion. Everyone has the ability to escalate something if somebody's not servicing the target for them, right? If the brigade commander's not doing something for me, and it is vital, I always have the ability to escalate it to a higher commander. Who do you have the ability to escalate it to?
No under policy.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, because I'm not putting the onus on you. Who is ultimately the person responsible for what happens in and out of that S4 shop?
My NCO, the NCOIC.
Is it? Is it? Here's another finding I have in this investigation. We have a horrible climate in our S4 shop. We have a horrible climate, and it's due to this. We're not going by our TDA. As the new commander, I don't like it. I never would have chosen to go this route. But we have chosen to make a supply tech the OIC. In our counselings, we tell this one person what they're responsible for, but then we look at this NCO and tell them something differently. Why is it Sergeant First Class Melitich? Why aren't you complaining to me about Miss Nelson?
Well, we always went to Miss Nelson. First Sergeant Waddell told us
We
not
always
to
went
go
to
to.
Miss Nelson. And then First Sergeant Waddell tells you not to. This is a me fault. I can't show you this portion of it. My Sergeant, if you'll read Part B, you can read it to yourself, just to show that it actually happened. I argue that there were some leaders here, leaders wearing ranks very similar to me, that created a horrible environment that resulted in this. I have not fixed it yet, but I'm going to fix it. This is what I found. I found one NCOIC saying something else, the OIC saying the exact opposite. I found a cleavage between the two people, a cleavage that would never exist in this relationship because the Army has created this relationship and has developed us to hold this relationship. I actually hold higher level leaders accountable. And I looked at their counseling statements, I looked at their counseling packets, I looked at who knew what and when, because you're now bringing up majors to me. Major Moffett knew this, Major Gertz knew that. I agree with you. There was an injustice done to you in the squadron, and I completely associate it to bad command and support relationships throughout the organization. I agree with you. When I look at the evidence, when I look at their counseling statements, things that you can't see, I start having some really hard questions about leaders. Because if I'm, here's the argument, because ultimately if I did non-judicial punishment on this, I can take a sergeant's first class rank and move him to staff sergeant, a staff sergeant to sergeant. Excuse me, I can't really do anything with sergeant first class, right? Yeah, I can staff sergeant to sergeant back to E4. We're really talking, how do you feel about a court martial? So when I look at this evidence, I have to think, will it get it over the gate? What will a TDS lawyer say about this when a TDS lawyer gets a hold of this? What will the defense be? Ultimately, I would say that our defense is very weak. I would say this is a squadron problem, and it is one I'm committed to solving. Do you have any questions on that one?
Yes.
And I would apply that to the weapons card as well. Okay, there was an allegation in the sworn statements that said that Sergeant First Class Meltich tried to stop you from using the squadron commander's open door policy.
Yes.
I found no evidence to support the allegation. What I did find is, I found evidence in several sworn statements that Sergeant Meltich actually told the command sergeant major that you wanted to talk with them, and then you did so in April.
She wanted me to talk to him with her. Sergeant Davenport texted me and said she went and told First Sergeant Waddell. First Sergeant Waddell came to her and told her to keep her nose out of it. It's none of her concern. So she texted me back and said I have to stay out of it. I cannot go and talk to Sergeant Major with you.
Who was the first person you named?
The overdose. The overdose.
Okay, so can you say that one more time now that I know who Davenport is?
Sergeant First Class Davenport, I asked her, Sergeant First Class Mel wanted me to go talk to Sergeant Major with her, and I said I didn't feel comfortable because I didn't trust her. So I said, Sergeant Davenport's gonna go with me. She went and told First Sergeant Waddell. First Sergeant Waddell went over to Sergeant Davenport and told her keep her nose out of it, it's none of her concern. She said, she texted me back and she said, I'm not gonna be able to help you. They told me to stay out of it, I'm sorry.
Sir, no, I gotta be honest with you, and this goes back to our networks, our leadership networks in this organization. As a squadron commander, I actually feel very uncomfortable that we're having to go to somebody outside of the squadron. If we feel uncomfortable, then in my mind, it's the person that you're asking the open door policy of. It's the command sergeant major. It's command sergeant major. I don't feel comfortable. We are bringing in too many leaders. There are too many leaders, and I always have to look and be like, who's this? Mm-hmm. There's too many leaders that are being brought in. My Sergeant Jones is actually a really great example of what right actually kind of looks like in my mind. That you're coming, you're using an open door policy. We brought you in November anyway, but and I'm going to invite Master Sergeant Jones in November as well, because leaders do have to be aware. I actually don't like the idea, though, of Sergeant First Class Meltich being in there. My idea, it should have been the first sergeant. It should have been the troop commander, one of those two, if not both of them. Because the person who's going to solve your problems for you in the squadron, it's not going to be Sergeant Davenport. It's actually that troop commander, first sergeant. Did you use the open door for the troop commander and first sergeant?
I did, and they both took her side, and that was when I wanted to go elsewhere.
They took her aside, but what did the troop commander and first sergeant do for your problem?
Nothing. They said I was not gonna be able to do it. Well, actually, the commander, he was more so, yeah, we're gonna fix it. First Sergeant Waddell, he just wasn't hearing anything. He actually came back and apologized to me, said that he didn't understand the whole situation. So after that, then he did like start helping me more. Like even now, he'll show me something, like, cause he just trying to help. But at first, they weren't. And then Captain Ivy, when he came, he really didn't know anything. He gave me a counseling.
So, like, let's use this example. We're largely here today, one, because, well, the most important reason is because this is a squadron level investigation. You can't go to a troop commander or first sergeant because they don't know anything. And they say, well, I don't know anything. You gotta go talk to the squadron commander. When you're bringing these problems, though, and this is something, and I'm trying to bring it out of you because this is ultimately my problem with the whole scenario. What did your troop commander and first sergeant do for you? It's okay to say nothing.
Nothing.
This is my problem. This is my problem. My problem is you did get an open door policy. You got it with a lawful commander of a troop, and you got it with a first sergeant, and they did nothing to solve your problem. As a squadron commander, I am more interested in that dynamic and holding those leaders accountable for not solving your problems, which arguably a 4187 to who? The troop commander, a weapons card. Who's responsible for building these packets and getting them into the S1? The troop commander and first sergeant. Ultimately, there's an echelon here that is clearly in the knowledge. There's one unfortunate part, though. The person that I want to hold responsible for this is not under my command. And so I don't know if it's worth it to say anything else. And I'll be very explicit. I'm talking about Captain Canty. Every time you're talking to me about your need to go to either the squadron or the brigade, when I look at the nexus of why, it keeps coming back to one thing in my mind, and what the preponderance of evidence tells me, you are getting FaceTime with a troop commander and first sergeant. You're getting open door policies with the troop commander and first sergeant. And they aren't doing anything to solve your problems in a timely manner. At least that's the impression I'm left after looking at this investigation. Does that seem inaccurate to you?
It goes hand in hand.
When Sergeant First Class Beltich came here, what rank was she?
Staff sergeant.
And then she was promoted a few months later. I do see lots of immaturity that we all experience as a leader. And there's people that should be developing that leader. I found their leadership and their development programs very wanting. And if you don't mind, it's inappropriate for me to go any further, so I'd like to leave it there. Okay, so there were several allegations, and these are all looped in that, I don't know, this is a huge investigation, so you might not have made it, this might have come from somebody else, but there was an allegation in there, and it came from multiple people, and they talked about, essentially it was accusing Sergeant First Class Melitich of hypocrisy, saying that, hey, look, she was getting on us because we had messy areas, she's getting on us because we were late to formation. And it comes back to, well, she's always late. I didn't find any clear evidence in this one either. What I did find from experience, I'd like to start there, is I got this investigation a week after the change of command. I read through it that weekend. And I said, you know what? I'm going to come to PT formation and see what this looks like with my own stinking eyes. If you took somebody completely ignorant of how the squadron works, somebody like me, on July 17th, what does our PT formations look like?
Just a few people showing up.
How many?
Depends on if the instructors are in class, but probably like.
I'll keep going. I like everything you're saying is exactly what I saw.
Probably like 9, 12 people.
9 or 12 people. Is it like the 82nd Airborne? By the way, I've never been in the 82nd Airborne, but it's how I imagine it in my head. Is it like the 82nd Airborne where like 10 minutes before a bugle calls, that we're all sitting there in formation, you know, maybe talking, telling each other how the weekend goes. Then the company first sergeant says, "Company, attention!" And then they blow a bugle. In fact, I haven't heard music my entire time here. They insist it happens. I have not heard it. I think they're lying to me. Does it look like that?
No, we form up like 5 minutes before the horn
Is
is
it always 5 minutes, or sometimes there's a flash mob, 30 seconds to a minute?
It's supposed to be 5 minutes, but sometimes people are like running in.
Do you remember after the chain of command? And I'm not memorable. I know I'm hardly even visible. Do you remember seeing me stretching out here while in troop is forming up here? Don't remember it? It's okay. I didn't have a car, so I stole my wife's car and I'd come here like ridiculously early in the morning. I spent 10 days, 2 whole weeks watching that formation because I wanted to get a feel for it. I saw it vary. And does everybody come in PT uniforms?
No, some people come in uniform if they have an appointment or.
Out of the 9 to 12 people that come, how many of them instantly disappear?
I believe everyone besides like the commander, first sergeant.
I was looking for somebody to do PT with for 10 days until finally I found the Master Gunner course. Sorry, I had to beat you. For 10 days, and at most, I saw 3 people that would stretch for a little while. The troop commander would come over, he would notice that I was watching, and so he felt obligated to come over. "Hey sir, I think I'm going to the gym." "Yeah, sure you are. Coming to PT and you're wearing your chucks, huh?" Don't make me start giving AR 670-1 on you. Here's my point. My point is, if people want me to go and they want me to get excited about PT formations, which is going to happen, it's actually my support form, but it's not until October. I'm about to flip the switch on this place. PT is not a holy moment in this location. It is not the 82nd Airborne. To be honest with you, it's not first cav. It is nowhere that I've been. It's a unique animal. The point is, the standard is universally not being upheld anywhere I look when it comes to PT. It's a flash mob for formations. The idea that somebody would be like, "Yeah, I can come a few minutes late," it doesn't surprise me. While the climate of an organization starts here, and so I'm saying this in front of Master Sergeant Jones, if this is what it looks like by second quarter, once we come back from the holidays, you can be like, "Colonel Scardiano, what a hypocrite, what a horrible leader." But here now, the climate doesn't exist. If I'm going to dig into Sergeant First Class Miletich, where is she at PT? Why is she coming late? I think I'm going to have to dig into every leader in this squadron. I think personally, and the reason I haven't done it yet, one, they got to get to know me and how I operate. I think I would have a revolt on my hands. I'm not lying to you. I'm scared that I'm about to encounter mutiny on the bounty. And so when we look at law, right, I can't be capricious. I can't say that I'm going to hold Sergeant First Class Miletich accountable for this. And yet I've got an entire formation that I'm not ignorant of. It's just in troop. No, it's not. I've seen Maverick Troop at the Post Theater. It looks exactly the same. Well, have you seen Phantom Troop? With the lieutenants, it looks right for SLC. For CLC, it looks like everybody else. I can't be capricious in this. So, was she late? Probably. I find it more likely than not. But everybody else up and down, I think it would look exactly the same. The messy work area, I think that's also probably highly likely. And I do think it's a hypocritical thing for a leader to do. But we just said she was a new sergeant first class. Whose job is it? Is this a UCMJ thing, or is this a leader development thing? Is this a conversation between a raider and a raidee thing? What do you think?
I'm actually confused on the messy work area as,
Oh, I heard she had a completely messy work area. She would drop crumbs everywhere.
I didn't report that. The
Oh, you didn't
crumb,
report that?
I didn't, the
Okay.
crumb incident was her
Okay.
stepping on a Cheeto for someone to pick it up.
I'll get to that one in a second.
Okay.
I pulled that one out as a unique one. Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's late for formation. It doesn't matter if it's messy. I find that to be a climate thing, and really I find that to be a raider thing. Her raider is the person I want to hold accountable for that. Her raider is the one that should be developing her for that. And going back to, if we say this one person is the OIC, and this other person is the NCOIC, there's a whole problem in how we do business here, because the OIC, they have no supervisory authority. This is a squadron command level problem now. How do we create accountability and development in an organization that doesn't look right? So this is a me problem, but I want to look you in the eye and say the problem absolutely exists. It wasn't a made up problem. It exists. And if I didn't have this investigation, I would never have known.
Can I say something on that? It wasn't about her being late. It was about her punishing others for being late. Like Simmons, she would make him do push-ups, then he would get up. No, get back down there. Like she would just keep on. It was just like abusing it. Because you're late as well, no one's making you do push-ups.
And who was she doing this in front of?
Me, Miss Nelson,
Miss Nelson?
yes.
First Sergeant Commander?
No, it would be like when we come to work, she
In this building,
upstairs, yes sir.
in the building that there's a squadron commander, a command sergeant major, 2 majors, and a handful of captains, and those captains are all up there. This is a leadership climate problem. And if I didn't know about it, this is me thanking you for this investigation. If I didn't know about it, I wouldn't be able to do anything to fix it. That is not it's not like that's a big sprawling place up there. That is a very small place. And this is something that I'm talking to the majors about right as we speak. Even though the actual XO doesn't return back from TDY until October, this is a huge part of what I'm going to fix about this place. So I thank you for that. Okay, both in my office and in the investigation, one of your complaints is that Sergeant First Class Knowles, that you feel like she harassed you, it made you feel like a bad mom because of the family care plan. That's all accurate?
It was other things like follow me around the building to see what I was doing, or like going to my office. And when I leave, I used to have to start taking pictures of it, because I'm like, am I leaving and stuff like this? Or like she would like shove my little prayer Bible up under my thing, or like she would just do the most randomest things. And so if I asked her about it, it was
Okay, I'm gonna tackle that in a second.
Oh.
But let's stick with the family care plan. So I got 8 of these things. We're about halfway done. Let's talk about the family care plan. So that was a complaint, right?
Yes, sir.
You brought that up to my office. Do you know why she was pushing the family care plan?
In my eyes, she was doing it to be malicious because she said I was leaving my kids in the car when I've never done that, ever.
You never did it.
No, I've never left my kids in the car to go do PT, never.
I don't think you did it to do PT, but there is definitely sworn statements from a company commander, your first sergeant, that it was your company commander who saw the kids.
Only one time my son's ever come to PT with me, but it was just my son. He was sick, and I was coming out of the car to say, I'm going to take my son to the basketball because it's summertime. I'm going to take him to the basketball, and then we can come talk.
So, and that's what I actually have written here. I found one that the incident, so I found that once there were kids in the car at PT, both you and Sergeant White, same day. I don't think that was coordinated, but they were in the car was running during PT. It was the commander and first sergeant who in their sworn statement said they noticed it. It was actually the troop commander first, goes over, looks, sees the kids.
That is not even true. That's not true. My car was right here, and I was sitting in my car waiting for them to stop talking, and I walked over there to them. They never saw any kids. She went and told them that. I don't even think Sergeant White brought her kids that day.
Sir, Major, inappropriate to show sworn statements. We probably need to put a lawyer. Okay, I can't show you sworn statements. What the evidence shows me, and I only have the evidence, right? I mean, Sergeant, you'll admit that I didn't get here until July. So I only have what I can read. The evidence shows me she never claimed to have seen it. It was the commander and the first sergeant together. The commander and the first sergeant in their sworn statements are very explicit. They were the ones pushing her to work the family care plan.
For my family care plan, it wasn't for that. Sergeant White's probably yes, but mine was because my husband had went to jail.
In Texas.
Yes, that was mine. But the kid situation, she was just, I promise, she was telling people that I even brought the doctor's note to show Sergeant Major, like, no, my son has an excuse to be out of school. I have to go take him to the doctor's. Then he's going to go to the gym because they offer you can bring your kids to the gym to play basketball, and he was just going to sit there. So I don't know how they said that, but I didn't even park. Like, you know, the formation, I didn't even park right here. I parked over to the side. And at this time, it was still dark outside. My car was off, had the window down. I was out of the car for maybe 1 minute.
So now here, and I just want you to show how this is going to look for a TDS lawyer. Because I'll be the first to say, witnesses aren't always right. Witnesses get dates mixed up, especially if you're asking them in June to remember something that happened supposedly in the winter time, and you're now saying summertime. So we already have conflicts here. But think about it now from a TDS lawyer perspective. This is what they have. The evidence is the evidence. And they're talking about it being in the winter time. Because if it was the summertime, she already would have been relieved. And that would have happened April.
Mm-hmm.
So the timeline's already not making sense.
This was in like May.
Okay, so right around the game cup.
School was about to be out because he had a doctor's note to not go to school for those 24 hours.
But the point is, even if it never happened, even if just the troop commander had misremembered, maybe he mistook Sergeant White's kids for your kids, the ultimate point is this. In the sworn statements, it's the troop commander that was pushing Sergeant First Class Mullins to create the family care plan. I know there was a leader here that was telling you it was not necessary. True or false? I don't need to name the leader, but there was a leader that told you, yeah, that's only if you go to NTC, that's only if you deploy, right?
No, everyone told me.
Everyone told you that you needed one?
There is a sworn statement from that person that says that.
That they told you that. So I know somebody told you that. Now, whether you took their advice seriously, it looks like, because I'm looking at your eyes right now, it looks like you said, yeah, that sounds like BS.
I don't know. I know they told me to go ahead and do it anyway, so that way I don't have any reason to get in trouble.
Exactly. So, in accordance with AR 600-20, you were absolutely in a circumstance where you needed a family care plan. I've got a troop commander telling a sergeant first class to get family care plan worked out. From a squadron commander perspective, do I want sergeant first classes to be responsible to troop commanders who are trying to uphold Army regulations? Yes. And so this is one of those that I looked at, and I understand that there is some discrepancy, you believe, with the witness statements, and I agree with you, there probably is. But with the evidence that I have, I see that it is only claimed by any witness 1 day at PT. And since we already established most people come to PT and then they go away, except for maybe 3 people stretching, is it completely inconceivable? And I'm just talking, so I have to go preponderance of the evidence to go to non-judicial punishment, so that's 51%. Is it more likely than not that you thought, hey, let me just park here for 3 to 5 minutes, we do the accountability formation, and I get back in my car and go? Because when I first got here and read the file, before I actually witnessed PT, what I had envisioned is that we were doing PT for 60 to 90 minutes, and we were leaving a parked car with kids, and like, it's winter time, it's cold, the engine's running to keep the heater going, the windows are fogging up. But now that I've seen PT with my own eyes, I know that's not what's happening. Is it completely inconceivable that, I mean, I almost brought my own son here for the 8 o'clock meeting and let his mom take him to preschool at 8:30 because of a conflict. That doesn't make me a bad dad if I'm leaving him in there playing with his little video games and stuff, right, for 30 minutes while we talk. One, I don't think it makes you a bad mom at all. And I found, if she said it, I found no corroborating witness to say that she said that. But the family care plan was necessary. She was told to do it by a designated authority with that responsibility to do that. So I did not find enough here to continue forward. Do you have any questions on that?
Yes, because by that time, my husband was back. He got out of jail October. He got back November or December.
And this goes back to the timeline. I mean, think about it now from that TDS lawyer's perspective. This timeline isn't making sense, because if your husband was back, in the timeline, it's happening in the first quarter. You're saying your husband got back in the fourth quarter. The dates on the family care plan are in the first quarter. You don't need a family care plan if you have 2 parents there ready to go.
The family care plan just happened after the investigation had already even been, after I went to IG. I added that into there.
But this is my point, Sergeant. There is no need to create a family care plan if your husband's here.
And that's when First Sergeant Waddell came and said, oh, you don't need it. He came and told me that.
So he told you that, but this is what I'm saying. When you go back and you try to get it, Sergeant First Class Melitich is still being told by the troop commander that your husband's incarcerated. I thought your husband was incarcerated during the first quarter, so apparently I'm wrong too. That doesn't make it malicious on Sergeant First Class Melitich's point. If the commander thinks that your husband's away and unavailable to care for your child, the fact is she is still getting guidance, a direct order to keep up with an Army regulation, and she's executing. So as far as First Sergeant Waddell does come to you, when did he come to you?
I can't even remember. I know it was, so whenever it was that we did the family care plan, we sat down, they was like, you got 60 days, we sat down, and then probably the next week or the 2 weeks later, he came to me and he talked to me about it.
So we know it didn't happen in the first quarter, in the fall, October, November, December.
No.
Because Sergeant First Class Melitich isn't even here. So she starts in January, she's relieved by April. Or suspended until in April.
I think the family care plan came in March or April, one of them.
This is a very tight shot group, and now you're making me in my mind overlay when was she gone for her emergency leave for her mother.
She was gone on her emergency leave. I believe it was the week that the investigation started.
And she was extended, it was 2 weeks, it was
2 weeks, but I don't believe it was
March, the first week of April, in that time period. So now our timelines are already getting, because how can she be on emergency leave and pushing you for a family care plan? I'm not saying any of this just didn't happen. I'm saying when you look at the evidence, none of this is aligning.
I have the emails and text messages of her on leave telling me to get this done.
And then I'm going to find the text messages and emails from the commander saying, I mean, what I'm saying is, now within it's established, the person that is pushing her to do this is the troop commander. She's not doing this on her, I mean, she's clearly a willing participant, but she didn't just come up with this idea. She's actually being driven to do this by your troop command team. And when they are doing it to be in accordance with an Army regulation, now if they're wrong, if your husband was out at this time, well,
that's my whole point of it. Not them pushing the regulation of, like, that part's right. My whole point is I'm telling them that my husband is here. That was the whole, nothing about them doing the right thing.
No, I like everything you're saying, because you're going right back to what I previously said. When I start looking at the nexus of all these bad things happening to you, I'm wondering if targeting Sergeant First Class Miletich as the proximate cause to this might be misplaced, because I'm looking at a troop commander and a troop first sergeant.
I put him in there as well, but I'm guessing because I said that he apologized to me, I didn't really care.
And so I kind of like where you're going with this, because, well, hey sir, you're a squadron commander. If you think they're responsible, why don't you do something about them? And what do you think the answer is to that?
You can't?
Oh, I can. There's things I can do, especially with the evaluation system. The reason is because time and time again, whether it's the weapons card, whether it's the 4187, whether it's the family care plan, are they malicious or are they ignorant? And when I say ignorant, that's not an insult, that's not a pejorative, it's, do they not know what is said? They clearly don't know you as a person to a certain extent. Like, where is your husband? Well, why are they did they ever sit you down? And this is a question, it's not in anything that I read. Did they ever sit you down with this family care plan and say, hey, look, as your commander and first sergeant, we just want to know, hey, I mean, how's your husband doing? Where is
That's
he?
what I put in my thing. I said, no one ever asked me.
Yeah.
And my thing, I said, no one ever asked me. I said, it was just weird to me that when I was asking for my thing to be signed and I said, I'm going to go to IG, if it's not, they brought the family care plan to me. So I thought that was malicious.
And I think you did everything right, personally. And one of the key messages that I hope you're taking away in this conversation is that at least when I looked at all the investigation, when I had the ability to look at the emails that people sent, when I had the ability to look at sworn statements from multiple parties, it's good that we're having this conversation. It's good that this investigation happened, because I started looking here and then I went and I looked in a different place. And I want to at least a little bit convince you that maybe Sergeant First Class Miletich isn't the nexus of all these things. That maybe there's a different echelon that I can see because of what I have purview for. You don't have investigations with sworn statements and emails and text messages and all that from different parties. When it comes to me, I can see all this and I keep going back to the commander and first sergeant.
So can I add something onto that?
Please.
So in my mind, it's her, because when the investigation comes, they both come apologize to me. Oh, she's a sergeant first class. I'm going to trust that rank over yours. So they're telling me, she's telling me all these things. They literally said, she told me all these things, so I just believed her over you. So they're telling me she's the problem. Everything that I said, they agreed. They said it's her.
That's why I love IG investigations, and that's why I love commanders' inquiries from squadron commanders and company commanders when necessary. And I like it because we put the onus in the right place. Because exactly what you're saying, if you were looking at an echelon, you're looking at the face of all this, the person that's coming to you. When I look at this, I'm looking at the entire system. I'm looking at the XO, the S3, I'm looking at the troop commander, troop first sergeants. So there's two of them in this case, two commanders, two first sergeants, three, because there's a switch out. I'm looking holistically at this, and that allows me to come to two different conclusions, and I have information that you don't have. I mean, I wish I could sit down and give you the findings. I feel comfortable talking this because it's, one, been appraised by a military judge advocate, but this is what I turned into, at the end of the investigation, this is what I turned in last week to IG. Okay, we got two more left. Okay, there's a complaint in here. You make a reference to it in your sworn statements, but the actual person makes a complaint to it, and the complaint is something like this. It's Sergeant First Class Meltich attempted to block another soldier, Specialist Simmons, from the NCO promotion board. That was a common thing, it looks like, in the S4 shop. I think Sergeant White had mentioned that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I dug into this. And the first question I asked was one that the IO never asked. So poor IO, I kicked that guy back like 50 times. But one thing that a lieutenant colonel knows to do that a captain doesn't know to do is, hey man, did you go talk to the president of the board? And of course, when I started doing it, who's the president of the board? So I put down my cup of coffee, I turned my chair and I said, president of the board. What do you think happened? Well, here's what happened. He did go to the board, and he went twice. He went in February and May. The February one, he just had a bad performance. She didn't block him, he went.
No, that's true.
He was in the board in February.
Oh no, I'm saying that's true. He did bad. I'm green.
Okay. Well, he goes in May. He makes the board. Now it's just a matter of points. So I did not find enough evidence to say that she blocked him. I found no correspondence. I didn't find her going to the president of the board, any member of the board. But had she of, I keep going back to this. I rate and senior rate a lot of people. Is it expected or unexpected of me to one day per quarter, be called up to the brigade commander's office with Brigade Command Sergeant Major and Sergeant Major Bros, and to be asked how I evaluate all the captains that I rate, all the majors that I rate, that are senior rated by Destroyer 6. Is that appropriate or inappropriate leader behavior?
If who asked you that?
If Destroyer 6 were to call me in the office...
Oh, no, I don't think that's inappropriate.
You think that's inappropriate?
No.
Oh, you don't? Okay. Yeah, that's expected. That's been my entire career. To go to a senior raider, and I completely expect Destroyer 6 one day to be called up to the CG's office, and the CG to look at him and say, Scarcadina, who's this guy? And I expect Destroyer 6 to go, oh, sir, it's pronounced Scardina, and here's what I think of him. I would have to know, one, what blocking of the board would look like. But the fact that he went tells me that it didn't happen. But I think it is appropriate if she did go as a Sergeant First Class, if she told her Troop First Sergeant, or if asked by the Command Sergeant Major, I'd find it completely appropriate to give her opinion on somebody that is in the S4. I would find that completely appropriate. But the evidence didn't show that he was ever blocked. He PCS'd. I'm not sure if he was ever promoted.
Not well.
He got promoted while over there. He made points
there.
over there.
Do you have to reboard? Okay, so he went to our board and he got promoted off our board at his next unit. So the evidence tells me that she never blocked him from the board because, like you, he's currently a sergeant.
On that, for the blocking, that actually went along with being late. I thought they went to talk to Sergeant Major, but they went to talk to, at the time he was acting for Sergeant Money, and he agreed that he could go. She said he couldn't go because he was late, and he'd already did the push-ups. Then she said he lied about an appointment when he printed out that he was at an appointment. So that was what that was. Like, she was trying to make...
I remember the appointment thing was covered in great detail. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But clearly, while there was this appointment thing, the appointment didn't stop him from going to the board, February and May. How often do we run boards on average?
Scheduled every month.
Scheduled every month, but executed every third.
Yes, yeah.
So the idea that he went in February and May, I mean, I would write off January and end of the year, but the idea that he went in February and May, I see nothing alarming in that. Okay, the last one that I reported, entering your office. entering your office, disrespected her by entering her office and moving some of her items and not returning the items to the proper location. I have absolutely no doubt she entered your office. When evaluating what is bullying behavior versus not bullying behavior, in my mind, and when I talked it over with the MGA who concurred, we always use the term, and you heard me use it a few times, nexus, but in this term it's called a military nexus. Is there a military reason that she is entering your office when she goes in there? Or is she just doing it to be malicious? And I'll turn that over to you, that's a question.
Oh, so the only reason that I felt it was malicious is because, say I would be at an appointment, and then Ms. Nelson would text me like, she's in there slamming cabinets and stuff. I'm like, why is she slamming cabinets? And then I would get back to work, and my stuff is not the way that I left it. Then when I asked her about it, she said, sure, I moved your stuff. I could have put it back. It could have been avoided. Like, she would make it seem as if it was an accident, but you can't purposely my prayer Bible and my little thing right here is nowhere near everything else. My paperwork will be scattered over here. When I set my stuff, my glasses, they had like a little crack as if she threw them.
I want to come back to that, but can I pause you on that, because this is the first time I'm hearing about the cracked glasses, because now that's property, that's different. But when she went in there, could she come and tell me that she had a military reason to be in there?
She was going in there for the environmental book, so yes.
And what else did she go in there for?
Just the environmental book, because she was supposed to be putting it,
Were you the key control custodian? Did you have any keys in your office?
No. I have keys in there, but they don't go anything. It's just, I'm not a keys. My name is on there, but the keys are in her office, locked in hers.
So you never had any kind of key control duties?
I just put my name on there as a person. I don't do anything key control.
Who does?
Her. Sergeant, yes.
Okay, but she was gone on leave, so who did it when she was gone on leave?
When she was on leave, Sergeant White was supposed to be updating the roster, like if you check a key in. But the key box is in her office on the wall with the lock. So she left her office open so we can go in there and get a key.
Does anybody ever go get keys and they're slow to return them?
No, as soon as we go, because we can't just leave her office open and if she's not here or something. But if she's here, she leaves her office open. But when she was gone, we take it right back. And I didn't even go in there to get a key because of the situation. I didn't want her to say that I was messing with any of her things.
So this is, actually makes me curious. So here's the story. Let's go to the day in the parking lot. How did we end up in the parking lot? If the parking lot is the end state, how did we end up in that dang parking lot?
Me and Sergeant White were going to go dispatch the van.
Go earlier.
Before?
Yeah, keep that in your mind, but go earlier than you went to go dispatch the van.
That day, all we were doing was turning in stuff for a gaining cup.
Turning in stuff for the gaining cup, so you weren't there?
We were not.
Okay. Did you know that AC in this building doesn't work a lot?
I do.
Did you know that on that day the AC wasn't working?
I didn't remember that.
So here's the story on that day. The AC wasn't working. Some maintenance repair people come here. They needed a key from Sergeant Melitich. She's just coming off a leave, and she cannot find the key to what they need. What is it?
The inventory book is what was in question.
Yeah. That is why she went to your office that day. She was looking for that log book while you were gone. So she's in here, she has no idea what's going on. She's been gone for about 2 weeks. It wasn't just your office. I mean, she went around to every S4 place looking for this log book. And this maintenance team needed it. Did you know that?
Well, when I came in, I saw them right in front of my door on a ladder, but I didn't know she was.
Okay, so you didn't put that together, but now it's starting to make a little bit of sense. So she freely admits, yeah, I was in her office and here's what I was doing. So from this point, because it's really stinking hot in here, and so I like it because it's giving us the feel of that day. Appropriate or not appropriate for her, and of course she feels like she's under pressure because the civilian maintenance team's just waiting on her. Come on, where's this logbook? Where is it? And she's going through everywhere. Are we appropriate or inappropriate reason to be in your office?
Appropriate.
Okay. That was my conclusion as well. And this is why we do investigations, so I can look you in the eye and tell you, well, here's what I found. Okay, she didn't find what she was looking for. She is still flustered. So because you're flustered and you're under a time constraint, these people are waiting on you like, hey man, come on, you're one of many work orders I got today. She doesn't put everything back. She admits to not putting everything back. There's no question that she entered your office and she didn't put everything back. She freely admits to that. So far, unless you're going to tell me she went like 1970s basic training style, at least shown to me in the movie Full Metal Jacket, where like, drill sergeants like going through, unless you're telling me she was just like tossing stuff, ransacking it, you came back, your drawers were all open and stuff was all over the place, that's inappropriate.
But that's not her first, one time, that's not, like, that wasn't the only time it's been multiple times. That was just the first time I ever said anything.
Oh, I agree with that. But like you said if we looked at this, there's plenty of reasons why she should have been, as the NCOIC at S4 section, that she should have access to your office. People enter my office, I'm the damn squadron commander, why do y'all enter my office? They enter my office because I've got books, I've got historical records, they come grab files. I'm the squadron commander, and that's just normal business. There are plenty of reasons the XO, the command sergeant major, possibly the S3, I started feeling uncomfortable when we're talking the S3, but definitely the XO and the command sergeant major, there's 100 reasons why they should be in my office and looking for drawers.
I was in your office yesterday when you were in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know these because when somebody calls and they say, hey, look, we need the legal file on X, well, of course that resides in my office, just like the environmental control log exists in your office. And other people need this stuff to do the job. I mean, it's working in a government building for the Army. Well, we're not talking about open desk drawers, all your stuff.
No, she will open drawers. That day she did not. But any other day she'll go in there, she'll open drawers, she'll have, like, for the family care plan, she just scattered it on my desk. Like, she did things like that. She would just go in there and throw papers on there, I'm guessing for me to get, or, like, that wasn't just the only time. And then, for, like, the books and stuff, if that book was in my office, I said books that everyone could use right in the open so you can know, because I don't like people to touch my things. I don't. So I would sit it right in the open. So for her to be rumbling through my things, throwing stuff over, I feel that inappropriate. That was not the first time.
Hey, and I have no doubt it wasn't the first time. Like you said, there's reason to go in there. Now let's talk about the throwing in the stuff, though. You took pictures of all this, did you not?
No, I would take pictures of how I left it, and when I come back, and I'd be like, Ms. Nelson.
But you didn't take pictures of what it looked like after?
When I came back, no, I would just show them, like, look at this.
Okay, because I asked the IO, because I was under the impression that you took pictures, so I asked the IO, and I was beating up the IO a couple of weeks ago, why don't I have the pictures? And the reason I didn't get the pictures was because you didn't take them.
No, I only take pictures of the office before I left, and when I came back, I'd be like, Miss Nelson, did you come here and do this? She'd be like, I did not do that. She was in there slamming stuff.
But you'll concede, though, when I'm looking at the evidence, and when I send an IO to find pictures of messiness, I didn't get evidence. I could probably get some sworn statements now that I know I could probably go to Ms. Nelson. But then TDS is going to look at Ms. Nelson, and they're going to talk about, is she a reliable witness? Did Ms. Nelson engage in competition with Sergeant First Class Maltich? What do you think they're going to find?
See, that was like
were
a
they
whole.
in competition?
They were.
They were absolutely in competition.
And that's why it always made it hard for. I couldn't just go to Ms. Nelson and say, hey, this is going on.
Now that you're an NCO, I want you to look at that as an example in your career of how leaders at the squadron and troop level, how they created a horrible system. Horrible system. We created an unhealthy environment where two people were in competition with each other. You mind if I close that door or something?
Oh, I got it.
So yeah, TDS is gonna look at that, and they're gonna find what I already found. I found unhealthy competition. And even if I had a sworn statement, a statement from Miss Nelson when it's regarding Sergeant First Class Knowles is gonna be in question. The pictures would have been really great for me to have, as well as the cracked glasses that I'm hearing about for the first time now. But when did this happen?
I don't know, like, I really suppress all this stuff. I'm a suppressor. So, I just know that I was like, Sergeant White, you see this? And she gave me her little, thing, because it was like a smudge crack. So she's like, just use this to clean it up. I'm like, no, this ain't coming out. She had to have thrown my glasses. And I asked Miss Nelson, because me and Sergeant White were gone. Were you in here? She was like, no. Like, every time she would say, she was in there slamming stuff around. So I took her the little, the little thing that comes with glasses?
Yeah.
The little thing, and it would not come out. And I was like, okay.
But you can see when I'm talking this out with the lawyer, and I want you to picture a conversation that looked exactly like this. Two legal professionals there, same two here, and when we went through this case, it was what's gonna hold up and what's not going to hold up. You could see where we were challenged, could you not? When we talked to the lawyer on this one, bullying and hazing are actually extremely hard to prove. It's like so many things with UCMJ, you almost need either a photograph or a video or a recording of it. Things that we didn't talk about in here. The parking lot. The parking lot. You gave the IO, so you felt, and rightfully so good on you. You felt the need in that, I don't even know what to call it, so I'm gonna call it an event. You felt the need to start recording, right? So there's this video that you're taking. With the video, and you don't think Sergeant Militich sees the camera out, right? Or the phone out, right? She doesn't know you're recording, so you'll admit that? Okay, so you have this hidden phone, you start recording, and you'll agree with me, you can't see anything if you're watching the video, right?
No, you can only see the beginning when she thinks I'm leaving her, so she's like chasing me around the car to see where I'm going. That's the only thing you can see. But after that, because I'm like, my hands behind my back, so you either see my back or the outside.
Yeah, whatever the video is showing, it might as well be a black screen. It doesn't show anything. What does the video show though? What value does it have?
Nothing, because everything happened after. When I was trying to show him the text messages, everything happened after. Like,
what about the audio? What does the audio show? Because you would say, estimate for me, what percentage of that event did you record? 30, 50?
Of us, probably like 30% of us, me and her just talking, and she left to go tell Sergeant White to leave because she didn't need to be over there.
So it's about a third of the time. What does that audio show? If you're just an external observer, say you're a brand new squadron commander that came here 17 July, you're sitting here with a team and you're listening to the recording. What does it sound like? Is there yelling?
No. Well, actually, it was yelling between Sergeant Mel and Sergeant White after.
But not on the recording.
I believe it was, yeah.
It's not there.
Oh, it's not?
Do you have it?